Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.
Hello, my name is Phoebe.
Hi, I'm Randy.
Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Don't forget to save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com. All you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. AG1 is offering my listeners a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/juicebox to get this offer. When I created the Defining Diabetes series, I pictured a dictionary in my mind to help you understand key terms that shape type 1 diabetes management. Along with Jenny Smith, who of course is an experienced diabetes educator, we break down concepts like basal, time and range, insulin on board, and much more. This series must have 70 short episodes in it. We have to take the jargon out of the jargon so that you can focus on what really matters, living confidently and staying healthy. You can't do these things if you don't know what they mean. Go get your diabetes defined. Juiceboxpodcast.com, go up in the menu and click on series. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. Learn more and get started today at contournext.com/juicebox. The episode you're listening to is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. You can get your diabetes testing supplies the same way we do from US Med. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the twiist AID system powered by Tidepool that features the twiist loop algorithm, which you can target to a glucose level as low as 87. Learn more at twiist.com/juicebox. That's twiist with 2 eyes.com/juicebox. Get precision insulin delivery with a target range that you choose at twiist.com/juicebox. That's TWIIST.com/juicebox.
Hello, my name is Phoebe.
Hi, I'm Randy.
Are you guys married? Did you meet each other at the Piggly Wiggly and you just decided to be on a podcast together? What's going on?
A little bit of both, but we are in fact married, but we did meet at the local gas station.
Wait, seriously?
Sort of, yes. I was working at the local gas station, and one day he decided to bring in a bunch of bottle returns. In the state we're in, that's a thing. And I was forced to count how many bottles he was returning. And that was the first real memory I have of interacting with him.
Wait, is that Vermont?
No, we're in Michigan.
Michigan. Oh, I was so close. I was going off an episode of The West Wing where somebody was running for president, had to go somewhere to the recycling thing to meet people. Was that New Hampshire? I don't remember now. Let's not get down that road. So we don't usually do multiple people, so there's got to be a good reason, right? So Phoebe, what's your deal?
So there is a very intentional reason why Randy and I are both here. I have been a type 1 diabetic since I was 12. I'm significantly older than that now. And I believe that Randy and I were put together on purpose because 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and is now also a type 1 diabetic.
Randy, her pancreas was so strong it came and got yours?
It did.
My God. How long have you guys been together?
We have been together since I was 17. We are coming up on our 20th wedding anniversary very soon.
Phoebe, are you trying to act like you're old when you're 37? Is that what was going on a second ago?
I know we are significantly older than that. I'm in my we are both in our 40s.
Oh, that is significantly older. Hey, Randy, are you much older? Same age?
Well, we'll be the same age. I just turned 45 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it must be a little more special after getting through what you got through, I would imagine.
Yeah. I didn't think I'd be here, but I'm still here kicking it and doing well.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll start with, where are we going to start? Let's think about this. I didn't know this was happening, so I have to reconfigure my thought process. I'm going to start with Randy. And I'm going to ask what it was like initially dating someone with type 1 and how did she tell you about it?
Well, she hid it from me for the first, I'd say, 5-6 months.
Wow.
I had no idea that she was diabetic. And then my real first memory of finding out that she was diabetic, she ended up hospitalized because of her thyroid throwing everything out of whack as well.
Hold on, Phoebe, what was the thought back then?
Well, I was diagnosed in the early 90s. And so I was on multiple daily injections, and hormones make that really interesting as well. And so my day-to-day was not anything remotely what it's like today. As a lot of your other people that have been on your podcast have mentioned, blood sugars took a minute or better to result. And you had to have this clear light underneath the blood sample in order for it to result. It was very laborious and no fun at all. And,
Phoebe, was I not clear, or are you dodging my question?
No, I'm trying to answer.
Go ahead. Yeah, like what happens when you say to yourself, like, I'm going to start dating this guy? I'm assuming in the beginning, you don't know if he's a nudnik or whatever. So you're like, I don't need to tell him all my business.
Yeah.
At some point, he pawns at you and you don't recoil. And now you're going out again. Again, it happens again and again and again. Do you get to a point where you're like, oh, snap, I've held this back so long, I don't know how to say it?
Well, I think that was a lot of it. And actually, one of the things that I was thinking about before this podcast and some of the dynamics I see in the online and the Facebook groups, and then even some of the conversations that you have with other people, it dawned on me yesterday, actually, especially when I was first diagnosed. A lot of people had a lot of very passionate opinions about things that I should be doing. Some of them were honest and genuine and maybe had good thought behind them, but others were very, very wrong. And so at some point I just decided, I'll take everybody's opinion with a grain of salt. And it wasn't anything I really advertised. Actually, it was definitely not anything I advertised to people that were around me unless they really had to know. But I didn't have a lot of lows. I didn't have any major symptoms that displayed themselves. I just didn't ever think it was important to tell him, at least not in the beginning.
Is it crazy to think that you told him when you realized you were in love?
It definitely came before that.
Okay.
When I was 18, I had Graves' disease and I underwent ablation of my thyroid with radioactive iodine.
Right.
And in the 90s, there were no medical records and doctors didn't do a good job of consulting with one another. And so I went from having a very, very overactive thyroid to having a very underactive thyroid. And when I had the ablation, I didn't even have a follow-up appointment scheduled with anybody.
They're like, you'll be all right. See ya.
Yeah, that was basically it. And honestly, I remember the moment when I was holding the 2 capsules in my hand in the radiation department. And I said, what are the chances this will work too well? And they said, 100%. And I said, well, then what do I do? And the technician said, well, you'll just take a pill every day. And I didn't even give it another thought. I was following the advice of what I thought were knowledgeable practitioners at the time. And so then, of course, shortly thereafter, my thyroid was not active at all. And then that caused, hypoglycemic events and hyperglycemic events and all sorts of things. So that was the hospitalization that Randy was talking about.
I saw that finally. Okay, so fair enough. You didn't tell him on purpose at that point.
Correct. Okay. I didn't tell anybody other than people that were very, very close to my circle.
So now you guys have been together a long time, so this doesn't feel weird. But Randy, when you realized that wasn't a thing she was willing to share at that point, how did that strike you? Were you put off by that, or did you understand? The brand new Twiist insulin pump offers peace of mind with unmatched personalization and allows you to target a glucose level as low as 87. There are more reasons why you might be interested in checking out Twiist, but just in case that one got you, twiist.com/juicebox. That's twist with 2 eyes.com/juicebox. You can target glucose levels between 87 and 180. It's completely up to you. In addition to precision insulin delivery that's made possible by Twiist's design, Twiist also offers you the ability to edit your carb entries even after you've bolused. This gives the Twiist Loop algorithm the best information to make its decisions with. And the Twiist Loop algorithm lives on the pump, so you don't have to stay next to your phone for it to do its job. Twiist is coming very soon. So if you'd like to learn more or get on the wait list, go to twiist.com/juicebox. That's twist with 2 eyes.com/juicebox. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. I used to hate ordering my daughter's diabetes supplies. I never had a good experience and it was frustrating. But it hasn't been that way for a while, actually for about 3 years now, because that's how long we've been using US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems nationwide. They are the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, the #1 fastest growing Tandem distributor nationwide, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer satisfaction surveys. They have served over 1 million people with diabetes since 1996, and they always provide 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. US Med carries everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Libre 3 and Dexcom G7. They accept Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. Find out why US Med has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau at usmed.com/juicebox or just call them at 888-721-1514. Get started right now, and you'll be getting your supplies the same way we do. contournext.com/juicebox. That's the link you'll use to find out more about the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. When you get there, there's a little bit at the top. You can click right on blood glucose monitoring. I'll do it with you. Go to meters, click on any of the meters. I'll click on the NextGen, and you're going to get more information. It's easy to use and highly accurate. Smart Light provides a simple understanding of your blood glucose levels. And of course, with second chance sampling technology, you can save money with fewer wasted test strips. As if all that wasn't enough, the Contour NextGen also has a compatible app for an easy way to share and see your blood glucose results. contournext.com/juicebox. And if you scroll down at that link, you're going to see things like a buy now button. You could register your meter after you purchase it. Or what is this? Download a coupon. Oh, receive a free Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. Do tell. contournext.com/juicebox. Head over there now. Get the same accurate and reliable meter that we use.
I understood. Growing up, I've had multiple traumas and stuff like that. I was struck by a car. I was burned, so I had scars and stuff like that. I understood that some people didn't want to disclose some of that stuff and wanted to keep that stuff private, so I was okay with it.
It's because you know what it's like not to want to share everything with everybody.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's really something. I appreciate you sharing that with me. So Phoebe, let's go back a little bit. You're diagnosed a long time ago, regular MPH?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed actually because I wanted to be on the track team and I had to go get a sports physical and I was spilling glucose into my urine. So they discovered it in a urine sample.
Right.
Prior to that, I had been pretty symptomatic for, probably a couple weeks, getting up in the middle of the night and drinking an entire gallon of orange juice because I was so thirsty, which of course, as I know now, that was the opposite thing that I should have been doing. But that was what my brain was telling me that I should do. So I'd lost a lot of weight. And once we got the diagnosis, I had to go to the hospital from the doctor's office and do a glucose tolerance test. I don't know why that is important in hindsight, but that was what they did. And when I failed the glucose tolerance test, they admitted me to the local community hospital for all of the education and how to do injections and such and hydration. And I was not in DKA, but I was pretty close, I'm pretty sure.
You know, you just made me realize we are old.
We are.
I don't think anyone who's, under a certain age would believe that in middle school, because I wanted to play baseball for my school, that I had to go to the nurse's office and stand in a line with 50 or 60 or 70 other boys who wanted to play baseball or do other things and track, whatever in the spring. And we, one after another, went behind a curtain when a strange man fondled our balls and told us to cough.
That is exactly how it was. I have vivid memories of that.
Oh, yeah, of course you do. As you were saying it, I thought, I bet young people are like, should he get a physical? Like, they send me to my doctor to get signed off on it, but your doctor just goes, you've been here recently, and they sign it.
Yeah.
I was molested. Like, so, yeah. He didn't say anything kind to me or anything. It was just like,
no.
It was turn your head and cough. Randy, you ever get this?
Yeah, I didn't even get dinner out of
it. I know, right? Like you'd expect a cheeseburger at least or something. A token.
Sucker, something.
No. We call those lollipops here, Randy, but okay.
Oh, lollipops. It's a Michigan thing.
Yeah, I just, in the context, I thought we should redirect.
Right.
Okay, so Phoebe, so you start that way. You have other issues I don't know about yet?
So I am now hypothyroid. I do have some slightly strange diabetic side effects. So I have necrobiosis diabetica lipidica.
Whoa.
I don't know if you've heard of that.
I mean, just today I did. Go ahead.
So basically it starts in kind of a small area. Mine started on my right shin, and it's degradation or a deterioration of the fat layer under your skin. And it's not generally painful or anything, but it's prone to ulcers and injury pretty easily. And then through time it spreads. So I have it on both of my shins now. It's ugly, but other than that, it's not really anything.
So I don't want to burst your bubble, but as you were explaining it to me, I thought, somebody else has told me about this. So is that localized or does it spread?
Yes, it does spread over time. I don't really understand the exact pathology behind it, but it has gotten bigger, but it's been, I've been diabetic for 30 plus years now. So it's slowly progresses.
And it's just in that spot.
Correct.
I gotcha. Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, what's it called?
There's an abbreviation that I always mess up, but necrobiosis diabetica lipidica. So MB.
I'm going to assume the internet can figure out the rest of it. Necrobiosis lipidica.
Lipidica, yep. Diabeticorum is another term for it.
NLD. Oh, also, lucky you, Phoebe. A rare skin condition associated with... How about in your family, Phoebe? Is there other autoimmune stuff?
Yep. So my half-sister is also type 1. My biological mother was diagnosed late in her life as a type 1 as well, and went through the trying to give her metformin and those sorts of things. She was actually crashed her motorcycle in the median of an expressway. And when they picked her up, she had really high blood sugar. So that was how she got diagnosed. And my biological father is type 2.
Wait, so your mom is the parent you share with your half-sister?
No, actually.
Really? Hold on a second. Holy crap. So your biological father, who has type 2 diabetes, has at least 2 daughters that we know of with 2 different women. They both have type 1. And the woman he made pregnant to make you got type 1 later in life.
Yes.
Oh, Randy, I was kidding earlier, but she definitely f***ed up your pancreas.
There might be a correlation there for sure. I think you're onto something, Scott.
You guys are like little pancreas vampires or something like that. Holy God, you're not near me now, right?
No.
Okay,
no.
Awesome. Do you know any other people, Phoebe, who have type 1 diabetes or problems with their pancreas?
Well, so funny, I was thinking in history, because I knew questions like this were going to come up. When I was in middle school, the time when I was diagnosed, there were at least 3 other people that I know of, 4 other people that I just thought of another one, that were all diagnosed at the same time.
Have you ever touched them?
Perhaps.
Oh my God, Phoebe, you're patient zero.
Yeah, I mean, you might be onto something.
I want to be clear, because there are at least 10 crazy people listening right now. They're like, I heard this podcast today, and this lady, everyone she touches gets type 1 diabetes. So that is not. I'm just making that up. I'm being facetious, but no, what a coincidence.
It really was an amazing coincidence.
Yeah, no kidding. My gosh, how's your pets?
Pets are all fine. Yeah.
All right,
pets are great.
It doesn't transfer from humans to pets then. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Not yet.
Not yet. One day your dog will look up at you and, you got me. Take me to the doctor. Yeah. Do you remember at what age did you start using like a fast-acting and a basal insulin?
So I started right off with a short and a long-term insulin. I don't remember what brands they were. Multiple daily injections right from the get-go.
Oh, you did not do regular NPH then?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So you started right away with probably like Lantus and Humalog or something?
It was whatever was before Lantus. That one, actually, I remember when I started on that. So
okay,
whatever the predecessor to Lantus was.
Like, you have a lot of different health issues going on. So, like, were your parents helpful with that, or was that all left on you to manage?
So, as Randy already kind of pointed out, and as I've been described by some of my friends as fiercely independent, my parents were supportive, but I started right from day one as managing it myself.
Mm-hmm. 30 years ago, they would have called you a pain in the ass. And today it's fiercely independent. I think it's good, by the way. I'm glad that we've all grown. But I could just tell you that in 1975, my father and his friends would have been like, "Oh, she's a pain in the ass."
Yeah.
Which not fair for people who are listening. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. And oh my God, we're just having fun. You took it from them. You were like, I'll do this on my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And did that work out well for you?
It did work out very well. Of course, being human and the processes of life, it didn't always work out fantastic. But as of today, I don't even remember the last time I was hospitalized related to my diabetes. I still have all of my toes and my eyes, and both of which were threatened that I would lose them at some point in my life when I was first diagnosed. So I'm very happy about that.
Well, yeah. And so, they set the bar very low for you. They're like, if you could just hold on to your...
They really did.
Yeah.
There was not really a bar. It was just a low, flat shelf called the floor, I think.
No kidding. And that was at diagnosis that you got that pressure, not throughout your life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And actually, my very first endocrinologist did not enjoy pediatric or young people diabetics, and he was not a nice person at all. And I dreaded going to see him, and he was always shock and awe and intimidation were his main tactics. So didn't have a great start in the endo world.
Did it work on you, or did it have a reverse effect on you?
It definitely had the reverse effect on me, and I tried to get rid of him as quick as possible, but he was the only endo in our area that was accepting people. So especially of my age. So I had to put up with him for a couple of years.
Okay. I'm sorry. It sucks.
Yeah.
Do you make it to a pump eventually? Are you MDI now?
Nope. So I'm Omnipod and G6 running in auto mode. And actually, as a result of, I don't want to give you too much credit, but credit where credit's due. After starting to listen to the podcast, my A1C's in normal range for the first time in my life. So,
good for you. I also love the way you preface that. Like, listen, I don't want to give you all the credit. Joking aside, again, you should not. Like, I really see myself as a person who just I'm like, here's tools. This is how they work. Right. Like, you got to go do something with them. I didn't do.
Yeah.
I tell anybody who comes to me privately and says things like, "Oh my God, you saved me," or "You did this." I'm like, nah, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, you did all the hard work. It's not easy.
Well, and I think that the best part about the podcast for me is the fact that my whole life I've had people coming to me from a position of authority and saying this is what you must do or you shall do to take care of your diabetes. And the podcast and your community has really given it from a peer-to-peer or a knowledge standpoint. And I think that's really what reaches your audience the most. At least it does for me. Having a peer that says, hey, this really sucks is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. I think people learn in different ways and they're engaged in different ways as well. And I can see there's times when I'll put up, there's an episode that went up this week with, I've been talking about it a lot this week, but it had a pretty big impact on me. So with Ryan, who had neuropathy or, retinopathy and, literally lost his sight. And then had to have surgeries to get it back, and now has not had that problem since he found the podcast and started listening to it. And there's this, kind of thing that goes on in the background where people will reach out to me and say, "Hey, I think you saved that guy's vision," and that's heady for me. So I've got to absorb that and sort it out because I'm not walking around, in a cloak with my hands over my head going, "Everyone, it's me. I'm Scott. I've saved." I have no feelings like that, but it's still, when it's put in your face, you think is that really what happened? Is it fair for me to absorb it that way? I go through a lot on this end. And then there are people who just want management talk, right? Some people love that conversation with Ryan and they get a ton out of it. And there are some people that hear that and go, "Wow, tell me how to bolus." Then those people want pro tips and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting. there was this moment where I thought that the podcast was just popular. And then I had to really look at it and recognize that there's portions of it that are popular with some people and portions of it that are popular with different people. And and that some people listen to the podcast constantly and won't go into the Facebook group, into the private group. They won't go there. They don't care. They won't go. And I'm like, oh, you should. There's so much there. And then there's people who won't leave the private group and listen to the podcast. It's just fascinating how everybody's like wants the information, but needs it differently. So I'm glad it found you. How did it find you?
Really by happenstance. I do a lot of listening to podcasts, and one day I just came upon it and started listening to it. And when we were going through all of Randy's stuff and I was in the hospital, it was a lot easier to listen to stuff than it was to watch stuff on TV or whatnot. So spent a lot of time listening to it.
Awesome.
By accident.
Roy, I appreciate that you found it, and I'm glad it helped you. Randy, what were your first inclinations that something was wrong?
Well, I'm a paramedic by trade, so I was on the ambulance, and between Mount Pleasant and Midland, say, is only 30 minutes. I couldn't go that whole trip without having to use the bathroom. Oh. You know, and I'm like, well, that's just weird. No matter how much I drank, you know, I'm like, man, I'm still thirsty. All them years of being in medicine and being around Phoebe and, you know, never put it in my head, or maybe I was just in denial. I finally took my blood sugar, and then I told my boss, I'm like, hey, I got to leave. I got to go to the doctor. And then that's when they told me that I was a type 2 diabetic. About 14 months later, I was on the ambulance again and had severe abdominal pain and almost like chest pain. It was like very diffuse across the bottom of the diaphragm, like a tight constricting band. And when I got to the hospital, we did a 12-lead EKG to check out my heart, make sure I wasn't having a heart attack. We did some enzyme tests and blood work and found that I was having a pancreatitis. And then to the end of 2022, I started having abdominal pain all the time, chronic diarrhea, fatigue, all sorts of weird symptoms. And then I just figured that this was the new norm. We'd done lab work, colonoscopies, you know, anything you can imagine, and we couldn't find it. And then my doctor and Phoebe were like, maybe it's actually time we started doing some imaging and looking inside and seeing what's going on. And then they found, I want to say the first term that they used was a lesion on the pancreas. So we were told that we needed to follow pancreatic lesion protocol. So we ended up going down to the U of M and did an endoscopy, ERCP, which is where they put a tube down your throat and basically ultrasound from the inside, and they placed a stent because on the inside of my pancreas, all the ducts were pretty much clogged with IPMN, which, if for the layperson, is fish eggs or tapioca pudding inside of all the ducts that were blocking all of the digestive enzymes. They said that I was precancerous and said that this always turns into cancer if we don't do anything. So Dr. Cho, who's one of the best in the state of Michigan, he was the top guy at U of M to conduct the surgery. And by the time he finished, I want to say I was in surgery for 9.5, 10 hours. We started out as a Whipple procedure, and he said he was just going to take enough of the pancreas, but he couldn't find any clear margin, so it became a complete pancreectomy. And the result of that, I lost my spleen because there was no place to attach that. Also got rid of the gallbladder because there was no place for that to go. So it's like the pyloric staving Whipple, but with the complete pancreectomy, splenectomy, cholecystectomy. We're all done at the same time.
What are the impacts, Randy, of losing your spleen?
Well, I have to be very, very cautious around anybody who's sick and being on the ambulance, anybody with a respiratory disease or anything like that. My other crewmates and coworkers kind of shield me from some of that. So if we walk in and somebody's got a known thing like COVID or norovirus or RSV or anything like that, they'll have me sit outside and wait and till they get out so that we're not in a confined area. But I wear a mask on all of my patient interactions, to help protect myself as well. But it's been interesting.
What's the spleen do? I'm blanking on what it does.
Basically, the graveyard for your immune system. So all your old red blood cells and such go and get reabsorbed in your spleen.
Oh,
yeah.
So then what happens? Nothing? Instead of that happening, do you take medication? How do you replace its function, or can you not?
You can't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just caution. So my white blood cell count is going to be continuously elevated because of it.
And then what about the gallbladder?
The gallbladder is just one of those things that it's kind of like the appendix. It can be there, it cannot. So I have trouble with greasy or spicy foods now.
Okay. Yeah.
Aids in digestion of food.
Yeah. So spleen, filtering blood, storing blood, fighting infections, supporting the lymphatic system. Gallbladder stores bile, releases bile, aids digestion. Oh, geez. And we know what the pancreas does. If I just asked you, how has your life changed without those three organs? What's the thing that jumps to your mind first?
Well, I've never been a great patient to begin with, being in the healthcare field. Remembering to take my meds, I have to take what's called pancreas after each meal to help with digestion.
Yep.
Remembering to take those in a timely manner mid-meal. I usually have to take 3 of these giant horse pills to help with that.
You get any depression from it?
Not really. More anxiety from when I was going through chemo than anything.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, I want to ask you about that. But I got to tell you, Randy, before we get to your chemo and how horrible it is, I want to just say that the most shocking thing about your story so far is that you were at work on an ambulance, thought you had to leave because you were sick, and they didn't offer you a ride. That's their whole job.
No, they gave me a ride.
Oh,
okay.
They gave me a ride. Okay. All right. I was like, did they really make him drive to the hospital? Because that's their whole thing.
No. No. Every time that I've needed to go to the hospital, one of my bosses have always jumped on the truck and been a part of it. And I always give the other paramedics that work with me a hard time because I'm a very hard IV start.
I'm just saying it would be really if they wouldn't take you to the hospital. As long as I was like, well, that's really terrible.
They have me drive the ambulance to the hospital for them. They're like, we'll go with you, but you drive.
It's like an Uber that you drive. That's awesome.
Sponsored by Medicare.
When they come to the conclusion, this is it, you have to have this procedure, did they call you precancerous? Why do you end up with chemo afterwards?
They called me precancerous, and then when they went in 2 months later, when we finally did the surgery, I ended up being stage 2 with both extracrine and endocrine cancers. So I also got both types of cancers. Initially, they usually do just like the adenocarcinoma or adenocarcinoma, but I also had the extracrine carcinoma on top of it. 1 out of every 4 patients is likely to make it through 5 years without the chemo, but 75% die without having it. So I've been patient 0 throughout this whole thing, anything that could go wrong or had a complication, I ended up being that patient.
Okay.
So I'm like, let's just do it.
How long did chemo last?
It was scheduled for 6 months. I had a reaction to my first treatment plan, which was FOLFIRINOX. They call it 5FU. They call that the no joke chemo because it's so hard on the system. I would go in it's usually scheduled for 6 hours in the chair and then 46 hours on a home pump. I would have staff that came in at the same time as me and that would leave before me for my first 2 treatments because it was so hard on my system.
Hey, did you get the bone pain?
I had bone pain. I ended up looking like an alopecia patient at one point. I think it was my 3rd treatment of the the other treatment that I had. I lost all my hair. I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. I had a pretty good beard going at the time too, so that come out. And
did you get the restless legs?
Yeah, I've got restless legs.
Did that go away?
A little bit. Every now and then I'll get like a kick in the middle of the night while I'm trying to sleep. It'll startle me awake. But tremors in my hands, I still got some of those that are pretty residual. I had the beginnings of neuropathy, but treating that with B12, and that's been pretty tolerable.
Okay. And so what's your long-term prognosis?
I just live every day, one day at a time. When I was going through chemo, they said that they put me in touch with a case manager, said, we've got you all set up. You'll go on permanent disability afterwards. And I'm like, why? I'm like, if I can still stand up, I'm going to go to work. They're like, nobody goes back to work after having pancreatic cancer. I'm like, well, I'm different.
And you've done that?
Yep. Yep. The place that I work at now has been phenomenal. They sent me to school to learn how to be a dispatcher. When my short-term disability ran out, they brought me back into the dispatch center, which is only 2 people. I would sit in a room locked in there with that other person, and I'd wear a mask and they'd wear a mask. And, while I was on chemo, and nobody could walk in or out. We had our own little kitchenette and bathroom and everything, so I didn't have to go wandering through the halls or anything like that.
That's nice of them.
Yeah.
Phoebe, what's it like when your spouse gets sick like that?
0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Are you having your own personal struggle with it while also having one that's the 2 of you?
Oh, for sure. I also am a paramedic. One of the reasons I wanted to come on the podcast is because it's so important for everyone to be or have a good patient advocate and really speak up when you don't understand a thing, or even sometimes when what they're saying doesn't sound right. And when he was in the hospital, he was hospitalized after his major surgery for 18 days at the big university hospital here in the state. And I felt like I couldn't ever turn my back because we had some amazing staff members, but we also had a few B team staff members. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of times where I had to step in and be like, you are absolutely not doing that. I just feel like I've had to, always speak up and be his advocate, but it's not been easy. It's been pretty tough.
Yeah. Have you guys talked about death? Have you had that conversation?
Well, I would say death is a joke in our house most of the time. Career side effect is it's something we've dealt with for a lot of years with other people, but having a realistic expectation of what it's going to be like at the end, I think is good. But yeah, we've definitely had some long conversations about the end.
Randy, do you have like meaningful conversations with family and friends beyond Phoebe? Like, do you do the rounds, or are you so busy trying to get better that you don't have time for that?
I talk to everybody. I feel that everybody that wants to talk to me has made it a point to call me every day or text me. Some of my family members are going through their own struggles right now with, like my brother-in-law has got cancer right now. So we keep in touch and discuss things like that. I think everybody knows my side of it as far as, I'm good with whatever happens. I know where I'm going. Phoebe knows that she can just light the pine box on fire and just let it sizzle in the backyard if needed.
I thought she was going to push you out into Lake Michigan, but
yep. Yeah. On an ice float.
We're doing a Viking thing. It's going to be awesome.
There you go.
If you're listening closely, my whole vibe has shifted because I'm sitting here thinking like everything I know about cancer is through my mom, and I stopped myself from asking you to describe that bone pain to me because I wanted to know what she was going through. And I thought that'll just derail this if I ask you that question. Everything else that happens to us happens slowly if you're lucky, right? You die slowly, You get old slowly, you get fat slowly, you get everything happens slowly. Cancer's like, wow, something's living inside of my body and it's eating me. And we're going to try to kill it, but everything we know how to kill it with doesn't really kill it as good as it needs to be dead. It's an infestation,
It would always make me chuckle. It was one of the few things that I joked about going through chemo because I was trying to be sensitive to everybody else that was going through it in the room that we were in because, not everybody has the same sense of humor that I do, but they would gown up, double glove, face shield, face mask, everything. And then I would be sitting there in a T-shirt with a med port and they would be injecting poison straight into my veins. And I'm like, this just doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate this.
Yeah.
Randy, when that's your best option,
right?
You know what I mean? That's the crazy stuff. You're like somebody's holding you hostage and the only way I can shoot them is to shoot you too. And, and then hopefully you'll make it through it. And I mean, that's a position to be put in, it's just uncommon in most other walks of life.
Yep.
And it's just on you. Like you're working one day and you're like, I have a pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody says you have type 2 diabetes. They probably gave you metformin. You know what I mean? You're probably like, oh, I guess I'll have to stop eating pizza now. And then,
Yep.
a number of months later, this is where you're at very quickly. Are your parents alive, Randy?
They are not. Both my parents are deceased. My dad was a type 2 diabetic. My mom's mother was a type 1 diabetic.
Really?
So, yeah, I had it going against me, too.
Your mom's mother was a type. Yeah, you guys don't have kids, but that's probably a good thing.
We decided very early on that if we were going to have kids, we would adopt.
I think it would have came out of Phoebe with an insulin pump in its hand. It would have been like, hey,
Probably.
I'm here. I'm so sorry to talk about like this, but does this change how you plan your life? Is it like you open your eyes in the morning and be like, all right, I guess we'll do it again? Do you plan out far? Like, do you have a vacation plan 2 years from now or anything like that?
We got a vacation planned in August. Honestly, everybody at work, I tried to be super positive. I was pretty negative after being in paramedicine for as long as I had been prior to cancer. My joke was always, I started in EMS when the Dead Sea was just sick. And now I go in and I'm excited to go to work. And everybody's like, oh, man, I can't believe we're at work again. And I'm like, dude, I get to come to work. Yeah. This is awesome.
Everything feels like I can't believe I'm going to say this, Phoebe, because you listen. I feel like a douchebag, and the words are still in the back of my throat. But everything feels like a gift at this point, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And I try to be sympathetic to Phoebe and the fact that she was the rock star through all this. I just had to not die. She had to go and make sure that I didn't die. Even when I go to the ER now for something, she feels like she has to be there to make sure that they don't kill me by accident.
Yeah, Phoebe. So we have this in common. Like everything that went wrong for my mom, I thought was because I didn't make the right decision.
Yeah. I don't necessarily feel that, but just keeping an eye, because I come from a medical education background and I've worked with a lot of different clinicians over the years. I just feel like everybody makes mistakes and nobody's perfect. And sure. I don't have the bandwidth to allow the mistake to happen to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, from when she was first sick to like when we figured out what it was, then the steps you take afterwards, like everything like it's always hindsight, like, right. Like there's something about that fight or flight that makes you see things as more, I don't know, doable than they might actually be. Like I remember the first time I was with my mom in the hospital and I'm like, there's something seriously wrong with her. But they were like, oh, it's like, it's this, it's that. It's like, it's all these things like, and you look back now and you think like, well, she was this old. This was her situation. Like nobody thought cancer then, like we could just check, you know what I mean? And then like, there's this time I took her to the emergency room and we realized, much later that they imaged her without draining her bladder first. They just couldn't see the cancer because the bladder was so full. And then there were 3 weeks before we figured out to get back again. And like, there's that party that's like, did those 3 weeks cost her 3 years? Like, I don't know, and maybe not, like, I have no idea, but like, I don't know. It just comes back. It feels like once somebody's older and not even older, because Randy's a good example, right, man? Like there's so much happening to you. You need someone helping you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm assuming you feel like somebody put a pot over your head, hit you with a bat, took off the pot and went, do you want chemo? Right? How are you supposed to answer that?
Right. Well, and the other thing was going through the surgery and the amount of medications that I was on. What was it, Phoebe? At one point, I had like 750 milligrams of morphine or something like that.
In a 20, no, it was not that much. It was 24. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, I don't remember.
Well, in fairness to Randy, he was high. He wouldn't be able to remember.
Yeah, he doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah, there were 3 days from the time that I went in to when I come out that I can't recall.
Yeah, awesome. By the way, you finally get to try morphine in your life and you have cancer. I mean, it just, what a bummer.
Yeah. My boss who came down and took over for Phoebe to keep an eye on things so that she could get a break and go get a shower and stuff like that. She's like, you never think that you'd end up having to give one of your coworkers a sponge bath, but here we are. And I'm like, what? Wait, that really happened? She's like, no, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, great. Mess with the guy that's high.
Everyone you know sponged you down while you were asleep.
That's right.
Awesome. Jeez, Phoebe.
Had a conga line.
Yeah. Hey, Phoebe, maybe you are a little bit of a pain in the ass. That was something there. It's awesome. I feel like I'm out of my depth even talking to you. Like, what should I be asking you guys about? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want to share with people?
Well, when I was listening to the podcast, actually, you had a call out for people that work in medical education, which is when I originally sent the email to you. And I know that was a long time ago, but you are just so busy and hard to get a hold of.
It's on purpose. Makes me feel important. No. You know, I just told somebody this the other day, Phoebe, I won't take you down this road too far, but the way I have it set up is if you have to sign up for something and 6 months later do it, knowing that it'll take a further 6 months after that for anybody to hear it, then when I turn this microphone on and you're here, you really want to do this.
Yeah.
And that's how I make sure to get people who are really going to add something to the podcast. Because if it was just like, if I just jumped on Instagram and I was like, hey, who's not busy right now and wants to make a podcast? 25 Nudniks would be like, I'll do it. Like, you know, and I can't believe I used Nudnik twice in an episode, but especially for you guys in Michigan, because you know like 3 Jewish people, I think. That must be crazier for you. You know what I mean? Like, I think making the process difficult makes the outcome better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So through the course of my life, I've had a lot of different jobs. And for a while, Randy, actually the beginning of all of Randy's symptoms with his diagnosis of his pancreatic cancer, we were working at the same organization, but I was teaching new first responders and new EMTs their craft. And I thought it was important to come on and kind of give that perspective from the caregiver's side of things, so to speak. And I know you've had some other people on as well, but then also just to say how important it is to really speak up. And I know other people that have been on have talked a lot about just doing what the doctor said. And we talked before we even started today about, you know, just doing what is told of you, but that's not always the best track. And certainly for Randy's story, it was absolutely the wrong thing to do, because the thing he didn't really tell you about is how much heartache and struggle and advocating for ourselves had to happen between his pancreatitis, which we still don't know why, although it's probably the pancreatic cancer, why he had that, you know, now 3 years ago or 4 years ago. They just said, oh, geez, we don't know why it happened. And then he started having all these symptoms. And like he had mentioned, you know, he just accepted it as a norm. And here I am at home banging my forehead against the wall saying, this can't be normal when you're spending, you know, 3/4 of your day in the bathroom with abdominal pain. Yeah. And then trying to talk to his care providers and his doctors and saying, hey, we got to do something. And we had one GI doctor that he was seeing that started him on this. I don't even know what it was, but it was a suspension that he mixed up that was supposed to help with his diarrhea. He did it for a while very religiously, and he went back and he was still having all the symptoms. And the doctor's like, well, gee, I don't know. Just keep doing what you're doing. And it was so long and so laborious and so painful and emotional for us that it was tragic. And I just kept saying, this can't be it. This can't be the answer. Just keep doing what you're doing. Is not working. Right. Nothing's changed. Yeah. And so then when we finally got the imaging results back with the pancreatic protocol recommendation, everything just kind of like we had taken forever to go click, click, click up the roller coaster hill. And we were finally at the top of it. And then before we knew it, we were having surgery and had a diagnosis of cancer. And to your point, Scott, you know, you go along every day and all of a sudden in the blink of an eye, it just switches. So
that's like getting hit by a car, which also Randy knows about. Like,
yeah.
It's terrible. Like that you have this experience in so many different ways, but of, you know, like you're just moving along, doing your thing. And then all of a sudden everything just changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the blink of an eye, changed.
No kidding. Hey, this is going to seem like a left turn, but do you guys listen to the podcast, Your Mom's House?
No.
So I don't either. Like I've heard it enough times. It's a comedian, Tom Segura, and his wife, who's also a comedian, Christina.
I've listened to him.
Okay. So there's the opening of, I don't know anything about this. People who listen are probably like, I think it's probably a running joke in the podcast, but there's this like voice clip of somebody yelling, "Who is Randy?" And I swear to God, for the last 51 minutes, I've got to fight that out of my head while we're talking. Randy's telling me about his gallbladder and his pancreas, and they're taking stuff out, tapioca pudding, eggs from fish. I don't know about, like, just sounded like goop in his pancreas. In the back of my head, there's this voice going, "Who is Randy?" And I'm just like the whole goddamn time is killing me. Like, not the same way cancer's trying to kill you, Randy, but you know what I mean, like killing me. Right. Oh my God. Anyway, cancer's a scourge. It's terrible.
It is.
Yeah, I can't tell you. My beloved Philadelphia Eagles are going to the Super Bowl next week, as everyone knows, and I'm sure you're all happy for me.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you. And my brothers and I, none of us live in the same state. We have a group text that we use during the Eagles games. We've been very religious about it this year, texting back and forth with each other during the games, like complaining about plays and like, why is he not under center? And like, why, stuff that when it's happening, Arden goes, "I can't believe you care about any of this or think about any of this." And I'm like, my brother's making a good point. Like I was like, but anyway, we get to the end of the game. The Eagles win. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. And my middle brother, Brian, who my mom lived with at the end of her life for a bit, he's like, "Oh, I'm sitting here like a bitch crying because the last time the Eagles, like this happened for the Eagles, like Mom was here." And like, and I sat with her and I watched the game, and then it brings the cancer thing up again. Like, and everybody, and we don't talk about it, but everyone like just goes back through it all.
Yep.
And if you're lucky enough, like, man, Randy, I obviously if people listen, like I'm not religious or I'd play for you, but like, I'll hold a good thought for you. If this all works out for you, you end up with a different perspective than other people have, which will be incredibly valuable for the rest of your life and for the people around you. But if it doesn't go your way, then it's all for fucking nothing. And it sucks. And then it's just you going through this shit. And there's nothing that anybody can say it is just going to be what it is. And you're going to deal with it as best you can. Is that how it feels?
At times, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty good perspective on things. I'm 45 years old. I've outlived many things that have tried to kill me. To be that douchebag that you are, every day is a gift, Yeah.
So you already have that perspective now. Like now I'm saying, like, me talking to you being, I don't know, like somewhat like Pollyanna about it. Like I'd like you to live with that gift for decades.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And not just for you but because like what that knowledge will bring to you and how you'll be able to spread that to other people. And it's a very hard fought perspective. You deserve to be able to share it, I guess, is my point.
I've actually had a couple of cancer patients that I've transported, and I've got a new perspective as far as like you were mentioning with your mom and the bone pain. I can't even describe it to you and how much it hurts. Phoebe's heard me complain about it. I don't know. It's like everything is a giant ache, and it's like trying to explode is kind of the only way I can even fathom talking about it. Is explaining to them what they're going to feel with some of the, if they're on either of the cancer regimens that the chemo regimens that I were on, what they can expect, and the importance of, washing your hands, don't letting anybody touch your blood, because it's basically like AIDS. I tell everybody, just think of it like you have AIDS. Don't let anybody touch your toothbrush. Keep your toothbrush in a different spot. Wash the toilet. Clorox wipes on the toilet seat and everything. That flush twice.
You talked earlier about anxiety that came with all this. Like, has that gone away for you? Or do you still have it?
I have it when I walk into that building. Now I have a new thing that we call scanxiety, because of all the MRIs, and I've got to go get another PET scan and CTs and stuff like that, because you're always waiting for that other foot to drop when it comes to finding out, if it's truly gone or not.
Like a significantly worse version of getting your teeth cleaned.
Yeah, I love getting my teeth cleaned because I couldn't have it done while I was on chemo.
Oh, I meant for people who are like, I'm definitely going to have a cavity. I'm going to get my teeth cleaned. I don't want to get my teeth cleaned because I'm going to find out I have a cavity. Like that whole thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Phoebe, something you said earlier has been stuck with me the whole time. Like it's been the only thing that's fought out the who is Randy in my head. When you said peer-to-peer, talking about people understanding your situation and how valuable it is. And then Randy basically just said the same thing. Like, I understand what that bone pain is like. If somebody gets in that ambulance now and I know they're going through chemo, I know they have that pain and I know what it feels like, and I can be more, a better servant to them in that situation through understanding. And then I just was mirroring it back in my head to the diabetes thing, because I stood in the shower this morning, like repeating this thought in my head that I keep looking at all the conversations we have with people. And I keep doing this thing privately that I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. But like later I'll take our conversation and I will feed it into an AI model. And I'll ask it to pull out everything that Phoebe said that's valuable for people living with diabetes. Everything that Randy said that'll be valuable for people who've had cancer. Anything that I said that might have been helpful. What did Phoebe say the podcast did for her? And I get all this great feedback. And I'm looking at it and I know there's a way to aggregate it and re-deliver it to people to help them. But I can't keep it all in my head at the same time to figure out what that is. I was standing in the shower and I'm like, I can't keep it all in my head. Like, why can't I wrap my head fully around what this is and how to re-disseminate it to people? And I'm going to figure it out, because I want to leave a thing that people can go to and listen to or talk to, ask questions of in the future. Because I can see a world where if you look at everything that happened to you, Randy, and everything that Phoebe had to stand in the background trying to figure out what was going on, and like, did that doctor just say something valuable or something stupid? Should I say yes to that or no to that? Like, if you had a prompt to go to and you could go to that prompt and say, the doctor said this, like, here's Randy's situation and here's everything it needs to know. Today, the doctor said this. Like, what should I be agreeing with? What should I be leery of? Where do I have more questions? What are the pros and the cons of this? If you could have done that along the way, imagine how valuable that would have been. And now imagine if you had that for diabetes. I think there's a way to do that. I think there's a way to put a prompt on someone's phone or their computer where they can go to it and say, hey, today I ate this, I did that, this happened, here was the outcome. What should I have done differently?
Yeah.
And I think that those answers to those questions are in the conversations that we've all been having for the last decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're onto it.
I do too, but like, I'm not smart enough, Phoebe, to like pull the whole thing together. It's just very frustrating because I feel like I'm standing in front of a puzzle and all the pieces are in front of me and I can't figure out where to put them. And anyway, that's what I thought about in the shower today. Hopefully I remember to wash my hair. I think I did.
It's a puzzle, which is a picture of grass, and you got to put all the pieces together.
It's exactly how it feels. I know all of the pieces are here. I don't know how they go together, and I don't know how to redistribute them back to you as a picture. Like, that's the thing I'm going to figure it out. Unless I, wake up and I have like, what'd you say? Like, pressure in my abdomen or whatever. Unless something happens, I get hit by a car, and then you guys are all, you're on your own.
And then it's all for naught.
Yeah, then yeah. I did my best. It didn't work out. What do you want from me? I think I'm super close to it. Like the idea. So anyway.
The very first podcast that I listened to you, Phoebe sent me, and it was a woman, I believe she was in Canada, and she was the first one that told us about type 3 diabetes because she didn't have a pancreas either from the pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
And that's technically what I have, but it's just easier telling people that it's type 1 because nobody knows about type 3C.
Other people have with 3C have said the same thing to me. Like it's just easier if I tell them I have type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
But they're also like, they seem worried that people who have type 1 through autoimmune pathways will be insulted by that if they find out that that's not how it happened. I think that's a lot of like it's nice, but that just feels like people are too impacted by the internet, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
No one's judging you.
Right.
Just live your life. What have I not asked you that I should have? Both of you, please.
I think we covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I appreciate your time, and I hope somebody gets something out of this besides suckers and peeing in a cup.
Well, Randy, anything that I've missed with you?
I don't think so, Scott. I got a couple of questions for you.
All right, Randy, it's Q&A time. What are your questions?
How old was Arden when she was diagnosed, and how old were you?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know how old I was. She was 2. She had just turned 2. She was probably sick on her second birthday, and we didn't know it. Probably took us a couple more weeks after that to figure it out. Her birthday's in July. I think we figured out at the very, I know some people really know the dates and the times, but like end of August, I think we figured it out. Our birthday is July 22nd. But that's interesting. How old was I? I've never thought about it that way. So that was 2006 and I was born in 71. Okay. 81, 91, 2001, 2011, 2000. Oh, I went past it. All right. 81, 91, 2001, and then 5 more. I was 35. Oh my God. I was 35. No, that can't be right. I'm going to be 50. She's going to have diabetes for 20 years this summer. And this summer I'm going to be 54. So I guess I was 34.
34.
Yeah. Math. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was 34 and she was 2. I'm a couple years older than my wife. So.
Okay. You were an adult when it started going down.
Randy, I'm not a fucking adult today. I don't know what you're talking about.
But what I'm saying is you probably had a career going on at that point, and then you shifted, and started doing all this research. How hard was it for you to do that?
Randy, I was a stay-at-home dad when that happened.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've been a stay-at-home dad since 2000 in January. I quit my job in January 2000 because my son was going to be born in February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't had to shave to be nice in front of people since for 25 years. It's awesome, by the way. None of you should have a job. Having a job sucks compared to not having a job. I just want to say that. But no, I was a really involved stay-at-home dad. Like,
that's awesome.
Very, very involved. I used to joke all the time that I'm probably too overly shy of being able to give birth. I had this experience when my son was young. He was only like a year old. And I realized, like, we'd made this decision. My wife was going to work. I was going to stay home. And I started realizing over that first year that she was having reactions to things that were very maternal, and my reactions weren't the same. And I thought, well, if my son's going to get robbed of those things from her, and she's being robbed of the experience, I'd be an absolute asshole if I didn't do my best to reproduce that experience for him and to share it with her. Like, I just gave myself over to the process. Like, I don't know another way to say it. Like, instead of being the person who was taking care of Cole, I tried to turn into the person who was raising Cole, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I did that for years. And then we decided to have Arden, and Arden popped out and I was doing it again, like, just going along. We were getting ready for a vacation. She had been sick recently. She had Coxsackie virus. And then I went to visit my mom to say goodbye before vacation so she could see Arden for a couple of minutes, like on her lunch break or something like that. And afterwards, I took her out to the truck and I changed her diaper, and her poop came out, but it was dry in these I don't know, nickel-sized pellets. And I squeezed them not with my hand, but through the diaper, and they crushed like dusty. They were completely dehydrated. And that got me to go back to the doctor. And he said, oh my God, like, she's still got Coxsackie. She shouldn't still have that. And I remember him saying, like, that doesn't ever happen. You don't get Coxsackie, get rid of it and get it back again. And then we went on vacation, and she was very thirsty. She had this giant drink in the car. And when we got to the vacation house, when I took her out of the car seat, I thought she had spilled the drink into her seat because I had to take the car seat out of the car and dump it out. It was that full.
Oh, wow.
And I thought she had taken this large drink and dumped it in there. But then when I dumped it out, I realized it was all like urine. And then over the next couple of days, while everybody else went to the beach, I stayed in the house with Arden. And I tried to take her out to the beach one day, and she stood in the surf and just stared. And I thought, like, she looks like she's dead. Then later that night, we tried to take her out in kind of the nighttime air. She did the same thing. And probably 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, everybody on this family vacation was up playing board games. I yelled across the room to my wife that I forgot to tell her that Arden's breath smelled weird to me that day. And she asked me how. And I said, I don't know, it was like fruity or metallic. And then my wife's face just dropped off her skull. And she's like, she has diabetes. Then it just all kind of started from there. And then I became a stay-at-home dad to a kid and a kid with diabetes. Probably a year later, I started writing a blog I just wrote the blog because I was trying to raise money for the JDRF, and it had gone so poorly that I thought, oh, I'll use a blog to like get the information out, because I was emailing people stuff. I was like nudging people through email and being like, you should donate to this, and here's why. I learned about blogging, which was not a thing back then. I did that for a number of years. 2007, the blog was really popular for a long time. I think it was like 2013, I got a book deal to write about being a stay-at-home dad.
Mm-hmm.
And on that book tour, Katie Couric told me I was good at talking to people. And so like a year later, when I really thought blogging was done, it was dead, as far as I could tell, I thought, well, I'm helping people, like, and this blog's going to stop and it's not going to help people anymore. So I started a podcast because Katie Couric told me I was good at talking to people.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now this is its 11th year. So that's kind of the process that gets you to Phoebe going like, I found that podcast. It was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why when someone says it like that, you think, oh, I wish they had all the context of how it's just here. You know what I mean? Like to do the thing from, but in the end, it doesn't matter. Like as long as it helps, it helps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Other questions, Randy?
How did you guys feel with your mom going through cancer?
Oh, wow. Initially, like I said, it felt terrible that we just didn't figure it out fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we figured it out, I think my first takeaway was that how much her age mattered now. Like before, she was just getting older, right? And getting older was part of being older. And she was in her 80s, and it was like, it just is what it is. But when you have to fight cancer and you're 80, it's different. You know, like all of a sudden, like what you aren't physically is super important. At some point, nobody wanted to help her. And I remember the helpless feeling that no one was going to help her, that she was just going to go into hospice and die.
Yeah.
And then it just hit me one day. My neighbor's kid was a surgeon now. And so I texted him and I told him what was going on. And I asked him if he knew anybody. And he went to medical school with a girl who ended up working in oncology. So he texted a friend and said, hey, my parents' neighbor's mother is in this situation. Do you think your guy would see his mom for us? And she's like, yeah, cool. So I just got a favor. I got a text favor and took my mom to the surgeon. He did all the looking at her, and he came into a room and he said, Bev, like, if we don't do anything, you're going to be dead in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do something, you might live longer. I don't know. He's like, I don't know. He's like, you could die during surgery. Like, I have no idea. And my mom said, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging, she said, in the room. And we set the surgery up. My brothers came in and it was COVID. So we basically had to walk into a hospital and like shove my mom forward in a wheelchair and like hope somebody came and got her.
Yeah.
And then we went and sat in a diner and just ate breakfast and waited to hear that my mom died during surgery, because that's what it felt like was going to happen. And then she woke up and did exceedingly well, went through chemo. Things were going great. She completed her she wanted to move out to Wisconsin to live the end of my brother lived in Wisconsin for years, and she'd been around me and my other brother for so long. She's like, this is the end of my life. I want to go like be around Brian now. So she went out there with him, and like, it wasn't like a full year later, but we were all out there and she was dying. It just, the cancer just came back. And, the only good thing I can tell you, Randy, is that it came back so fast and furiously that she didn't know she had cancer again. I'm happy my mom passed away not knowing that her cancer came back.
Yeah.
So, because it was a lot to hear the first time, Anyway, you're a bummer, Randy, with your questions. What else you got?
I got one last question for you.
Go ahead.
How do you feel? How do you think Jason Kelsey's feeling about this?
Oh,
if he retired too soon or not?
So in my house all week, we kept saying like, can they just sign him for a game? Like, you know what I mean? Like he won't play, but like, can you just put him on the roster so he can get a ring, and not only that, but both our centers hurt. And so the backup got hurt. And like, I'm sure they'll be all right 2 weeks from now, but like, there's a legitimate, like, could you maybe, if we just needed you for 5 or 6 downs here or there, could you be ready? I'm sure it would kill him. You can't stop and start playing professional football at those positions, right?
Right.
I don't know, man. His life looks pretty good to me. I can't imagine he regrets anything, but I think once the push comes to shove, though, and the game's happening, I don't know how you do something like that and don't miss it every time you have to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, how would you feel if, like, if those people told you, like, don't ride that in that rig anymore, and then an ambulance went by? You'd be like, oh, I miss doing that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I do believe this. I believe he's going to root for the Eagles during the Super Bowl, as we all should.
Yep.
You think people hate the Eagles?
I don't think so.
No, you should try being an Eagles fan. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does look like it.
Dude, it's so much fun to be from Philadelphia and just not care about what people think and yell and scream about football for a couple hours every once in a while. You guys are in Michigan. What do you have? Like college
the
football?
Lions.
Oh, yeah. That didn't work out at all.
Right. We've got the Wings.
What do they say out there? They say what? The injuries, right? We would have been there, but it's the injuries.
Yeah.
You think that's true?
We'll get it next year. Next year's our year. That's what we say every year.
Dude, listen, I got to be honest with you. When I was a kid growing up, the Lions were the patsies that showed up on Thanksgiving for the Cowboys to kick the shit out of.
Yep.
So you guys have come a long way, honestly.
Yeah. And then, we have the Green Bay rivalry that we've always had.
I will say this. I'm not usually critical of other people's decisions because I figure it's hard to be anybody. But having a position player throw a pass at that part of the game when it's on the line didn't make any sense to me at all.
No.
It's just a bridge too far. Like now's not a time for a trick play. Now's the time for getting a couple of yards and keeping going. So anyway, Phoebe's like, I don't care about any of this. Right, Phoebe?
Go Lions. Go Lions.
Go Lions. You've been told to say that.
Dedication. They lose every year, but we still like them.
Yeah. Listen, it's fun. We were sitting watching the game last week, and Arden goes, I'm watching. Like, she looked up and she goes, I don't understand anything that's happening. And I was like, not at all. I'm like, sit here for a couple hours. Like, we'll explain it to you. She goes, no, thank you. So anyway, all right, you guys are terrific. Hold on 1 second for me, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Having an easy-to-use and accurate blood glucose meter is just one click away. ContourNext.com/juicebox. That's right. Today's episode is sponsored by the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. The episode you just enjoyed was sponsored by the twiist AID system powered by Tidepool. If you want a commercially available insulin pump with twiist lube that offers unmatched personalization and precision for peace of mind, you want twiist. Twiist.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast was sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today with US Med. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. I can't thank you enough for listening. Please make sure you're subscribed or following in your audio app. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. My Grand Rounds series was designed by listeners to tell doctors what they need, and it also helps you to understand what to ask for. There's a mental wellness series that addresses the emotional side of diabetes and practical ways to stay balanced. And when we talk about GLP medications, well, we'll break down what they are, how they may help you, and if they fit into your diabetes management plan. What do these three things have in common? They're all available at juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu. I know it can be hard to find these things in a podcast app, so we've collected them all for you at juiceboxpodcast.com. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. wrongwayrecording.com.